This week's sacred reading is by an unknown author. I really like the slide, so. Thank you.
Good morning. And I'm going to do a sacred interpretation of the unknown author. And it's a sacred interpretation, it's a sacred burglary. So you can imagine a burglar identified as beautiful, fallacious home. And it breaks in the home by finding a loose, open window, crawls in. The person crawls in with a flashlight looking around the home. And here's a small voice says, "Spirit knows you're here." Startled, clicks off the light. Spirit knows I'm here. So quietly in the darkness, no additional voice, no additional sound. So it said, "Must be my own guilt," you know that. So turn back on the flashlight as it looks around for valuables. And it notices this beautiful home theater with the subwoofers and the beautiful stereo system. So as it goes over, we begin to disconnect the wires with anticipation of moving it out of the home. Here's another voice that says, "Spirit's watching you." No, that was not my guilt thing. So it turns back on the flashlight and begins to look around, identifies a parrot in the corner. And he says, "Was that you?" The parrot goes, "Yeah." "My name's Moses." Moses? Who would name their parrot Moses? The same kind of person that would name their pit bull watchdog Spirit.
Sent us on our journey. One of the truths that all mystics recognize is that the divine is looking for us with far greater intensity than we are looking for it. As the Prophet Muhammad says in one of his sacred readings, take one step toward God and God will take 1,000 steps toward you. Search sincerely for a higher vision and the divine will see how I reinterpret it. And the divine will open for you a door into its and your essential truth. You will be given whatever is needed to invite you forward. So when I was very young, two of my sisters traveled to Israel on 2 different trips, and one of them brought back this necklace, and it was a sterling silver necklace of my Hebrew name, which is okay. And I used to talk to God through it. I would say, I would sit most often in the bathroom, sacred bathroom, and I would hold this necklace and I would talk to God. And God and I were pals. We were good buddies. And we would talk all the time. We were close. I never felt alone. I always knew that God was as close as right here. And God sort of was a mix of Charlton Heston and my dad. And he, God, lived up there, looked down on me. We were so close, but it was a he up there kind of puppet master. And I never questioned God. No matter what happened, he was always there. And then September 17, 1975, my dad graduated from Earth School in an instant. My dad, who was a servant of God, a singer of God, the voice of Israel, he would sing at our temple so beautifully. Gone. And I was pissed off. I was so angry. And I started this war with God, which lasted 11 years. And I never denied the existence of God during the war. I actually knew God was around because God was punishing me and my family. Bad things were happening, and it was God, him, who was doing it. And so I never ever said, "Oh, there's no God." Oh, I knew there was God. And I was really irritated. recently, of course, this movie that has changed Heather's and my life of Pi, phenomenal movie. And there's a moment in this movie where Pi is on the ocean and a storm comes in. And the sun is shining through the clouds, and he's telling, how many of you have not seen Life of Pi? Oh, okay. He's telling his companion in the boat. Okay, so you know who's in the boat. Okay. He's telling Richard Parker in the boat. He's saying, come out and look, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And then he realizes that Richard is scared. It's terrifying. And Pi, in a fit of absolute rage, he looks up and he yells, why are you scaring him? I lost my family. I lost everything. I surrender. What more do you want? He never denies God's existence. He just suddenly doesn't understand why God's being so mean. And that part of the movie really touches me because that was me in my 11-year war. It was, why are you doing this to me? I used to talk to you all the time. We used to be pals. You know, what's going on? So it was confusing. It was confusing because I was angry at God. And yet I knew God was there, but I couldn't figure out what was going on. And so when I would have talks with people who would say, you know, well, where is God? I would say, well, where isn't God? God's everywhere. Well, what is it doing? And like in moments of great tragedy, great disaster, like especially after 9/11, a lot of people, not all people, a lot of people were saying, where is God? Where was God? Hurricane Katrina, where was God? God was right there. But the initial instinct is to say, well, this horrible thing happened, where was God? And have you noticed, this was where this talk started, because have you ever noticed on a sunny afternoon when someone's grilling steaks and drinking beer and shorts outside, they're never going, where is God? On those days. Or when you get the dream job that you want, or when you go on that second date and it's like, yes, this is the one. You never are walking around going, well, where is God now? It's like everything's going fine. So then God suddenly becomes interpreted into this naughty child, this like pesky 2-year-old. It's like, where is that God? What is he up to? He's messing with my life. What's he doing now? And how is he going to make it better? How is he going to make it up to me? It's kind of like the corner of the bed. You don't really notice the corner of the bed until you stub your toe on it and you're mad at it. It's been holding you up this whole time. And then, even more so, there are people who will then give God a whole other personality. Like, after Hurricane Katrina, there were people that said, well, God did this as a punishment because of the naughtiness in New Orleans. Or pretty much anything the Westboro Baptist Church touches. Well, God's doing this because of you, because this, because that. So then, not only is God actually paying attention to being a pesky 2-year-old, now God's mad at us and is going to mess with us and mess up our lives. So far, for keeping track, we have God as bully, God as misbehaving 2-year-old, God as a guide, and God as a punisher. So here's the big question. Where is our accountability? What is our accountability in our lives? In everything that happens, good things, bad things, there's a tendency to blame this God or to thank this God for what's happening. So then, as I started researching this and thinking about it, then it took me to, so it's not so much where is God, it's what is God. And then I thought, oh great, Rachel, in 20 minutes on April 28th, you are going to define what is God. Go for it. Welcome to Spirit Stone, you know. But you know, what the heck is it? During my war with God, what or who was I actually at war with? Who was creating the experiences I was having? Who was responsible and accountable for what I was experiencing? So recently, Heather and I introduced her to the TV show The West Wing, which she had never seen, and I'm so excited. We're having such a great time going back through the episode from the beginning. Bartlett, our president, who has been raised Catholic and is a very faithful Catholic, goes to her funeral, and after the funeral, he asks everyone to leave, and he asks them to seal off the cathedral, because he's president, he can do that. And then he yells at God, in Latin. And he calls God a feckless thug. Wow. You know, if I had that language during my 11-year war, I would have used it. I don't think I've ever used the word feckless until today. So, and he's mad. He's so angry. Later in the episode, the character who's passed comes back to him to visit. And she says, God doesn't cause car accidents. Don't go blaming God for this. Don't use God as an excuse. Which I thought was pretty progressive for an early, 90s political show about the president. But it was a very powerful thing. God doesn't cause car accidents. Stop using me or death as an excuse. So, right on. So there we are with this accountability issue. So if we can't blame God, does that mean it's us? Wow. And then it becomes this question of what is faith? If we put faith in God, outside of us, and God disappoints us, what happens to our faith? And I was thinking about our pal Jesus, the great master teacher, and there were a couple times that came to mind. I mean, there were many times, but two in particular for me. They came to mind when he talked about people being of little faith. And one of them was when they were in the boat, and he's napping, and the storm comes up, and all the guys in the boat are like, "It's a storm!" And Jesus is snoozing. And they're like, "Jesus, wake up, it's a storm!" And he wakes up and he's like, "What are you afraid of?" "Stop." Stops. And they're all like, "Oh my God, we're never going to use this." Yeah. And then the other time, of course, is when he walks on water. And they're like, "We want to walk on water." And he's like, "Well, then do it." And they get out of the boat and they walk on the water for a couple steps and then they go, "Oh my God, I'm walking on water," and they sink. And he's like, "Look at what doubt does." So fear and doubt get in the way of our faith. Another moment in life of Pi that is so great, right at the beginning of the movie, is Pi says that faith is a house with many rooms. And the writer that is interviewing him says, "Well, is there room for doubt?" And Pi says, "Oh, plenty. On every floor. Doubt is useful. It keeps faith a living thing. After all, you cannot know the strength of your faith until it is tested." And then from the actual book, Life of Pi, there's the quote, "To choose doubt as a philosophy of life is akin to choosing immobility as a means of transportation." Doubt just gets in our way. It's our tripping point. It trips us up. And it makes faith become this thing that's shaky or changeable. And personally, I don't see faith as a blind thing. I don't have blind faith. However, I do know that if I sit on this bench, it's going to keep me up. I don't have faith in the bench. I just know. I have confidence in my house key. If I put it in the lock, it's going to open the door. Because it's the right key in that lock. It's my house opens. So I know that what I say and what I think is going to shape my life. Because that's what happens. I don't have to have a blind faith in it. I can see it. I can see what I create. So there's a great story about faith and knowing, and it's that Superman, the old Superman, black and white Superman, when he would come into the room and he would say, "Whoa, criminal, stop what you're doing," and they would fire a gun at him and he would stand there like this, and the bullets would just bounce right off of him. But then if they picked up a chair and threw it at him, he would die. Where is the faith in that? Your bullets don't hurt me, but whoa, a chair. So what do we trust and what do we know to be true? So there's this atheist and he's walking in the woods and he's saying, saying, oh, look at the beautiful trees, look at the beautiful woods. Oh, it's such a sunny day. It's so lovely out here. Look at the animals. Oh, it's wonderful. And he's walking by a river and he hears a bit of a ruckus in the bushes behind him. And he turns and there's a big giant grizzly bear. So he goes running. And he's running and the bear is running. And he looks over his shoulder and the bear is getting closer. And finally he looks over his shoulder one more time and he trips and falls and the bear is right there. And the atheist says, oh my God. And everything stops. Time freezes, the bear is in position, nothing's moving. And this bright light shines down on the man. And a voice says, wow, you deny my existence all these years, you tell other people I don't exist, you credit my creation to some cosmic accident, and you want me to help you right now? And the atheist looks into the light and says, well, it would be hypocritical for me to suddenly ask you to treat me as a believer. I get that, but maybe you can make the bear a believer. The voice says, great. Light goes away, action back. The bear drops to his knees and says, Lord, bless this food which I am about to take. So recently we were at an event where we had a table and somebody said, so at first when you talk about God, did you talk about Jesus? And I was like, well, yeah. But let me define it for you. And so I didn't define Jesus because I don't go there. Jesus was a great guy. Let's outside of it, definition. Great guy, wise teacher, awesome, could walk on water. Really cool. But the way I described God was this. So, you all know the Energizer Bunny? Keeps on going. And when the Energizer Bunny turns around, there are these batteries in its back. God's the batteries. God is the thing in me, in you, in it, in all of us, in everything that keeps it going. Which kind of dispels the mystery of the man in the clouds. It kind of makes it, oh, okay. So I am at one with it because it's the batteries in me. And it's my responsibility to keep those batteries charged. Mother Teresa, it was a perfect quote, but as soon as I said that, I was like, I need something to support the battery thing. Bam, there's Mother Teresa. Always to the rescue. She said, when you look at the inner workings of electrical things, you see wires. Until the current passes through them, there will be no light. The wire is you and me. The current is God. We have the power to let, she says, to let the current pass through us, use us to produce the light of the world in us. Or we can refuse to be used and allow darkness to spread. We've all seen people who are refusing. It doesn't mean God's not their batteries. They're just refusing. A United States Marine was sitting in some college courses. He decided to finish his degree after he returned from service. He completed missions in both Iraq and Afghanistan, and he was really looking forward to gaining some new knowledge. And in one of his courses, he had a professor who, on the first day, clarified that he was an avowed atheist and a member of the ACLU. One day, the professor shocked the class when he came in. He walked in the center of the classroom, looked at everyone, took a deep breath, and said, God, if you are real, then I want you to come here and knock me off this platform. I'll give you exactly 15 minutes. Well, the whole lecture room just fell silent. 10 minutes went by. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The professor claimed, here I am, God. I'm still waiting. It was down to the last couple of minutes when the Marine got out of his chair, went up to the professor, and punched him right in the head. The professor, boom, out. And the Marine went back to And the Marine said, God was too busy today protecting soldiers who are protecting your right to say stupid stuff and act like an idiot. So God sent me. This is how we're used by God. This is how we let the courage go. I don't encourage punching people, but you know what I mean. At the Boston Marathon, there was a woman who couldn't finish, and she was sitting on the curb and she was crying. And 46-year-old Brent Cunningham from Sitka, Alaska, walked up to her and said, "Why are you crying? I'm so sorry. Why are you crying?" And she was like, "I can't finish." And he said, "Well, here." And he had finished the race, and he gave her his medal. When they asked him later, "Why did you do that?" He said, "I just gave her my medal, my race medal. Because I finished and I got my medal and she didn't finish. And she deserved a medal. So I just gave her mine. Because I had to. It was like, I cannot not give it to you. You deserve it." He was letting my current flow. And I believe that this is what happens when we connect. We're seeing God in everything, in every moment. We're connecting and we're feeling it through ourselves when we do certain things or say certain things. So we see it in the heroes and the helpers. Here's the tricky part. Can we see it in the bombers? Can we see it in those who are harming us? Can we see it in those who are blaming others for the pain that they're experiencing without accepting accountability for the pain that they cause to others? We can see it in those who step in. Can we see it in those who step out? And if I am to believe that the battery is within me, then I must know, I have to know that the battery is within them as well. And this is the tricky part of walking a spiritual path for anyone. We tend to be found to be the unpopular perspective. Acknowledging that there are reasons why things happen. On the same day that the Boston Marathon experienced a bomb explosion, the U.S. dropped a bomb on a wedding in Afghanistan, killing 30 and wounding hundreds. Didn't make the news. There's reasons for things. There's accountability for things. I almost got punched in the face after 9/11 because I was like, but what happened before? And what happened before and what happened before? The crisis in the Middle East, it can be solved. It just needs time to untangle all the stuff that came before. I also almost got punched in the face. It happens a lot. After Columbine, when I kept saying, but those young men, Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, they died too. And they died before they ever walked into that school. They were dead before they did the crime. And it's because their batteries got loose. Have you ever tried to use a radio or a flashlight? You put the battery in, you turn it on, it's not working, you're banging it off the counter. And then you open it up and you realize that you put it in upside down. Or it's just not in all the way. I have a battery charger that won't light up if the batteries aren't in just right. It makes me crazy. There's a book called The Pilgrimage written by Paul Coelho, and I think I may have quoted it 2 weeks ago. It's a book I'm reading right now, so we're going to be hearing a lot about it. But he wrote, "You believe that God exists, and so do I. So God exists for both of us. But if someone doesn't believe in God, that doesn't mean God ceases to exist. Nor does it mean that the non-believer is wrong. Wherever it is you want to see the face of God, there you will see it. God is in everything around us, and it has to be felt and lived." Exactly. Jainism is a path of spirituality that's really awesome. It's from India from the 6th century back before. And it emphasizes spiritual independence and equality between all forms of life, to the point where if you are following the path of Jainism, you cannot take jobs in restaurants or any place where like insects are killed. They are very specific about where you can work because you cannot cause any violence or hurt any other being. I don't know if that includes making salad. cycle of reincarnation. So each lifetime, the more gentle they are, the more peaceful and the more spiritually free they are from all the ties, they get closer. Yesterday, Heather inspired me to bring out the big B. In Psalm 139, David says, I can never be lost to your spirit. I can never get away from my God. If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I go down to the place of the dead, you are there. If I ride the morning winds to the farthest oceans, even there your hand will guide me. Your strength will support me. If I try to hide in the darkness, the night becomes light around me. For even darkness cannot hide from God. To you, the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are both alike to you. It's right there. It's right there. It's everywhere. Pope Francis, my new favorite guy, for the most part. He's got some issues with women, but he's a priest. So. But when they asked Pope Francis, what do you think about fundamentalism, religious fundamentalism? He said that it warps and weakens the faithful. The Pope said that. He went on. He said the teacher who is so arrogant as to make decisions for the disciple is not a good priest. He's a good dictator, an eraser of the religious personalities of others. The kind of religiosity so rigid wraps itself in doctrines that pretend to provide justifications, but in reality, they deny liberty and don't allow people to grow. The Pope. Neil deGrasse Tyson, great scientist and fantastic person. As they are currently practiced, there is no common ground between science and religion. Although, just as in hostage negotiations, it's probably best to keep both sides talking to each other. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the leader of the Transcendentalist movement from the 19th century, he really did not like organized religion. He wanted to be out there on his own. And he said, there is no bar or wall in the soul where we, the effect, ceases, and God, the cause, begins. You're seeing a theme here. There's a theme here. There is a light that shines from within us. He says the soul, whose organ we are, would let it appear through our action, would make our knees bend. When it breathes through our intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affection, it is love. So you go back to Mother Teresa's writers. When we let the current flow, we feel love. We find God. So today we can choose to break the bonds on that word. We can choose to just bust that word wide open. We can explain to people so that they don't freak out when they hear it, or close up, or get hurt when they hear the word God. We can explain it in different ways. And for those who are feeling separate, you can love them because you know that their battery's loose. And send them the prayerful energy of just that little extra push to get the battery right over the coil. It's our responsibility. It's our accountability to bring God through us as the writers and to express it out. Before we move into prayer, there's two things I want to share with you. One is, for those of you who may not have been here before, there are stones by the front table. If you haven't taken one, you can just take one now, that's cool. And the stones are used to just give the energy of whatever it is you want to let go of, or whatever you want more of, into that stone and release it into the water during prayer. Heather and I take those stones and we do sacred prayer. We rinse them, we cleanse them. So you don't have to carry it anymore. It's yours to let go. I also also wanted to share this poem with you. It doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in a vacant lot or a few small stones. It's the doorway into thanks and the silence in which another voice may speak. Just like the word God, prayer doesn't have to mean I'm on my knees begging for something. It can mean that I'm knowing something. And I'm flipping the switch and let my current move. So as I go into prayer, feel free to bring the stones down. If it feels uncomfortable, that's okay. You can put them in the water after the service is done. When you do come down to get the stone, there is a story that I wanted to share, but it's a little too long, so I copied it for you, so please feel free to take that with you. So taking a breath, shaking off all the energy in the room, allowing new energy in. What I know to be true about God is that God is truly in everyone, everything, every moment, every breath, every word, every sound. It's in the understanding and in the misunderstanding, because the misunderstanding is just the opportunity to let more God flow in. I know that what's happening in the world right now may look like the appearance of all kinds of chaos, and yet what I know is there is no questioning where is God in it, because God is in it. God is in each and every aspect of it. Because God is not a good guy or bad guy, and God does not cheer for any team, and God does not support this person and shun that person. God doesn't know that. God is this neutral energy coursing through each and every one of us, and it's in every one of us. It's us. We are the ones who allow it. We are the ones who get out of its way and let it have its way. It's us. And we co-create with this energy. We allow Spirit to move through us, and we work with it in communion to make our lives more loving and more peaceful, more connected. We let the music of God sing us. We let the sunshine of God warm us. We let all of these things happen so that we can then go out into the world as God's instrument, God's channel, and let that energy spread. We connect with those that others may never connect with. We pray for those that others may never pray for. And it's not that we know any great secret. We just know the truth. God is love and light and power and beauty and community and family and connection. And so God's with us in our joy and in our pain. God's with us in our excitement and in our darkness. And so for right now, I hold all those who requested prayer for me. Right now, I hold them in that energy, knowing that the prayer was answered before it was spoken. Because there is no God outside of us to hear it. God's right here hearing it. And it's with us. So I bless this time and I bless this space. I bless these stones with everything that they bring forward. I bless those here and those who are here in consciousness. I bless all of it.